Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Shri Krishna Caitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Shri Krishna Caitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Shri Krishna Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Jaya Radha Gopinatha, Radha Gopinatha, Radha Gopinatha, Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra, Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Can you hear me? Is it okay? Yes. Maybe I should switch on. In this way, less echo, and you can clearly hear me. It's better. It's a different setting for Bhagavatam class. But it's not a Bhagavatam class, it's just Chaitanya Candrodaya. Okay. I don't know what we're gonna do now. We are reading today from Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, the 4th chapter, and verses starting with verse number 2. You could sit on it, no problem. And guess what is in verse number 2? We can all repeat it together. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, that was verse number 2. All glory to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glory to Lord Nityananda. All glory to Sri Advaita Acharya. And all glory to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. The 3rd verse says, Chatuta shloke artha kaila vivaran panchama shlokeha artha suna bhaktagan. I have described the meaning of the 4th verse, Chaturtha. Now, O devotees, kindly hear the explanation of the 5th verse. I will pause a little bit and give a little comment because it's not very clear. What are these verses? And what is this chapter it's all about? Okay. In the beginning, in the 1st chapter of Caitanya Caritamrita, there are the contextual verses, the verses which content the main points, which later Krishna Das Kaviraja Goswami expands on. And this chapter will be explanation of some verses, specifically very confidential verses. These verses you will not find in Chaitanya Bhagavat or Caitanya Candrodaya or Chaitanya Mangala or any other confidential and very elevated literature dedicated to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These verses were personally received from Swarup Damodar by Raghunath Das Goswami. He gave these verses to Raghunath Das Goswami, and he, in all confidence, gave these verses to Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami because he was his close friend and a disciple. So, he was Shiksha disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami gave these confidential verses, and we will read them slightly later. Now, text number 4. Mula slokira artha karite prakasha artha lagaite age kahile abhasa. Just to explain the original verse, I shall first suggest its meaning. So now we're coming to the fourth verse. Chaturtha shlokina artha e kailasara premanama pracharite e avatara. I have given the essential meanings of the fourth verse. In which chapter he gave this? In previous chapter. I have given, so it's in the past. How it's called in English? Past tense, yeah. And I think it's a past completely. It has been completed in the past. I have given the essential meaning of the fourth verse. This incarnation, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, descends to propagate the chanting of the holy name and spread love of God. So the words are used here. Premanama pracharit. Prachar means preaching. Premanam, not just holy name. Premanam, pure love of Godhead in the name. Text number 6. And this verse is on the board, so we'll read it. Let's do it together. Satya e hetu kinta aho bahiranga ara eka hetu shuna achi antaranga. Satya, true. A, this. Hetu, reason. Kintu, but. Eho, this. Bahiranga, external. Ara, another. Eka, one. Hetu, reason. Shura, Suna, please hear. Ache is, and this is the key word, antaranga, internal. Okay? So the last word is the most important. It's an internal reason. Translation. Although this is true, this is but the external reason for Lord's incarnation. Please hear one other reason, the confidential reason for the Lord's appearance. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the 3rd chapter, 4th verse, it has been clearly said that Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to distribute love of Krishna and the chanting of his transcendental holy name, Hare Krishna. That was the secondary purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. The real reason is different, as we shall see in this chapter. And it is the word antaranga that makes huge difference to how we perceive the reasons. The same words are used to describe external energy of the Lord and internal energy. Same words, antaranga, is used to describe the confidential servants of the Lord, antaranga shaktis. So these reasons, you could, in synonyms for the word antaranga, are internal. Another word Prabhupada uses in the translation, who remembers that word? Indirectly in the translation of the verse. In the word by word it says internal.
Confidential.
Confidential, that's right. So it's a confidential reason. And which other words you could say? It's a very personal reason. So it's nothing that has been described in Chaitanya Bhagavat or Chaitanya Mangal or Prema Vivarta or any other biographies of Lord Chaitanya. It's a very confidential. Now, one devotee, he's young devotee, he just came from a long Buddhist meditation, silent meditation. I was wondering if he will come. So I would talk about the esoterics that they have in Buddhism, in Mahayana. There are esoterics which, if you study them very carefully, you will find out that the worship of they performed after certain initiations, after certain secret rites, is extremely similar to the worship of Krishna. So they describe similar mantras, similar forms, similar color, similar paraphernalia, and the idea of loving God is very close. You know, the whole idea of prema that we described in a previous chapter, in a sense, can be given by any other avatar, including, as in other yugas, it could be given by Shakti Avesha avatars who are empowered to distribute the love of God by propagating the Prema Nama Sankirtan. But this time, and that was described already, Lord comes himself, personally, not as an avatar, as an avatari. You know, avatara, avatari. Remember those beautiful words from the bhajan? Prabhupada sings them with such a deep emotion. Avatara, avatari. The source of all incarnations came Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there was a reason why it was the source of all information. Now, this chapter is an extremely long chapter. I have to be quite honest with you. You probably will get tired by the time you get to the end of it, because we get only a few verses at a time. Maybe I can read a few more. Purvayena pritivira bhara haribare Krishna avatirna haila shastrite prachara. Next verse says, the scriptures proclaim that Lord Krishna previously descended to take away the burden of the earth. Swayam bhagavane karmanahe bharaharana shruti-karta vishnu karina jagatpalana. To take away, that's a quote from the Shastra. To take away the burden, however, is not the work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The maintainer, Lord Vishnu, is one who protects the universe. Kintu Krishna Rayetihaya Avatara Kala Bhara Harane Kala Titi Hoila Mashala. But the time to lift the burden of earth mixed with the time for Lord Krishna's incarnation. Okay, so Vishnu can do that. He can do Dharma Samstapa. he can do all of those things which are described in Bhagavad Gita. Pavitranaya sadhunam vinashayascha duskritam. Vishnu can do all of that. And Prabhupada says that we have information from Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears in particular intervals to adjust a time-worn spiritual culture. Lord Krishna appeared at the end of Dvapara Yuga to regenerate the spiritual culture of human society and also to manifest his transcendental pastimes. Vishnu is the authorized Lord who maintains the created cosmos, and he is also the principal deity who makes adjustments when there is improper administration in a cosmic creation. But, now I'm not going to do it the way Maharaj did, but Shri Krishna, being the primeval Lord, appeared not in order to make such administrative adjustments, but only to exhibit his transcendental pastimes and thus attract the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. However, the time for administrative rectification and the time for Lord Krishna's appearance coincided at the end of last Dwapara Yuga. Therefore, when Shri Krishna appeared, Vishnu, the Lord of maintenance, merged with him, because all the plenary portions and parts of the absolute personality of Godhead merged with him during his appearance. A little personal story about this merging with and was it 93? I think it was 93. I took a course, very interesting course. It was an overview of the first canto in VIHE. And those days VIHE in Vrindavan was right in the middle of the temple, and it was very popular. Many devotees would come. And I got really bad grades on my exam paper. I was quite sure I was right. So I went in and I asked why I got the bad grades. And one of the main problems was that I didn't answer correctly. I said that the Vishnu is merging with all his plenary portions in the absolute personality of Godhead during his appearance as Lord Krishna. I felt offended because I felt it was right. But in a sense, the idea is actually more complex than that. Krishna comes as the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Vishnu is, in a sense, is there as part of the Līlā. And Akrura Gat Līlā explains how Vishnu is there. It's a wake-up call. Thank you. Okay. Now, it's just a personal side story, but devotees tell me, and I think it was next year that I got to the course which was the overview of Caitanya Charitamrita, and specifically it was Ādi and Ādi-līlā. And there, Jai, we went through very, very confidential information, which was part of that course. And in a sense, the hardest chapter, I have to be very honest, was the fourth chapter. This chapter is the hardest one because there's so many intricate philosophical ideas about who takes form of whom and the mood of each, that it becomes confusing actually. And I have to be honest, when I read it again, sometimes I get confused. But it's not a surprise. Because just listen to this, it's very simple. Krishna was confused. Krishna didn't understand completely the reasons of the three things, which we already discussed with Tattvavi, those three things last Sunday. But if Krishna is confused, it's okay for me to be confused about them. It's not a big problem. I'm not feeling very touched. But things which became clear to me are this. And I just wanted to make it very clear. Maybe if I didn't make it clear, you tell me and I will make it clear. So now, the previous chapter was the chapter about the fact that Lord came to give 4 highest rasas. So the previous chapter was about Raganuga Bhakti, Harinam Sankirtan Raganuga Bhakti. This chapter is really much more confidential. It's not about Raganuga Bhakti. It's about the confidential reasons which, out of all the disciples of Lord Chaitanya, not even Rupa Goswami knew. It was by divine arrangement that Raghunath Das Goswami was not to be seen as a direct disciple of Lord Chaitanya. Why? Well, he was such a rich boy. He came from such a rich family. It was actually dangerous for Lord Chaitanya to accept him as a direct associate. So he was put as an associate of Svarup Damodar. So that it's not my servant, it's a servant of Svarup Damodar. Because the biggest landlord, biggest Damodar, and a disciple of Yadunandanacharya, his father, was looking for him. And it was not an easy problem. So, by divine arrangement, he was put a disciple of Svarup Damodar and received this shloka, which is known shloka. It's verses 5 and 6 Its verses are composed by Svarup Damodar, Radha Krishna, Pranaya Vikritir, Khladini Shakti Asman. But more important is that part. Caitanya Kyam Prakatam Ahunna Tadvayam Chakyam Apatam Radha Bhava Duty Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Svarupam. It's all about the fact that Radha Bhava Duty Suvalitam, meaning overpowered by the bhava of Srimati Radharani, he comes with the content. Well, inside he is Krishna, Svarupa. Svarupa is the same, but bhava is replaced. Now, so the idea is that now those two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. A few technical notes. In Sanskrit, I'm not talking about modern Hindi. You will tell me what means Gauri in modern Hindi. Okay? But in Sanskrit, it's not a very nice word sometimes, Gauri. Isn't it? But in modern Sanskrit, the Gauri doesn't mean actually golden. Prabhupada gives this golden translation. Gauri actually means whitish, pale, or fair. Like in English, they say, my fair lady. So, go, tapta kanchana gaurangi, oh, fair lady, Radharani. She's shining. That's another meaning of Gauri. And this shining, bright complexion, which is so popular now in India, isn't it? They sell it. That's probably the best-selling cosmetic. You get like whitening cream. You want to be whiter. You want to be fair. You want to be like Radharani, isn't it? That's the idea. Because otherwise, they will not take you as a stewardess on different flights. No, it's too dark. No, but the idea is that Krishna, who is dark in color, he comes and takes a fair complexion. Exactly same Shyam, who is very dark. He comes as in the complexion of Srimati Radharani. Now, devotees, remember, and that was part of the course, they remember when first time in 1974 these chapters were published, the first volume of Ādi-līlā came out, and first impression is that these are amazing topics. This is just something we never read. I never heard anything like this before. And second was, devotees tell me that we are not qualified to understand this. This was, and in a sense there are two different opinions. Even today, some devotees will say, and insist, that in order to study Caitanya Charitamrita, you have to be, well, first of all, complete all your studies of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and then you have to be liberated soul to actually understand Caitanya Charitamrita. And others say, well, Srila Prabhupada gave us Caitanya Charitamrita, so we should read it, and read it as well as other books. By the way, the Bhakti Sarabhavana course is still in the process. It's not yet there. So, and Prabhupada wrote that you have to study Caitanya Charitamrita. And he wrote it even before he published Caitanya Charitamrita. He meant it. He wanted us to study it. So now, the answer to this question is given in the first verse, a Sanskrit verse, which you read last Sunday, I believe. And there it says that even a little boy, Balak means boy, but not only boy, isn't it? Balak also means a little elephant, and Balak means a little animal. Even a little animal can read and understand this chapter, and there is a reason given, by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's not like we can do it. I can do it, Prabhu. Sure, yes, and I can do it. No, it doesn't work like that. Only if the mercy is coming down, and we can understand it. Without mercy, it's very confusing. You will not even understand, the distinction between three different ones. I understand one, first one, okay, yeah, he looked at the mirror, he looked so attractive, he wanted to experience this, okay. But then the other two, sometimes they're overlapping, and it really gets confusing. You need mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to understand this. And you could say that Prabhupada supports both views. First, that you have to be completely liberated. And the second is you have to read it. The first one he expresses in the Ādi-līlā, in the 8th chapter, he says that you have to be liberated to study the confidential topics of the relationships between Krishna and the gopis. And it's Madhurya Ras is not for conditioned souls. It's absolute truth. It's not meant for the conditioned souls. But then in Krishna book, in the 31st chapter, he says, okay, this rasa dance description is cleansing the hearts of those who have material lust in the heart. So it's meant for everybody then. It's actually not for everybody. It's for those who have remnants of the lust in the heart, not overwhelmed by lust. It's not meant for those souls. But both cases, and that's interesting with Prabhupada's being the prachar mood of Lord Chaitanya. That was the first person to distribute Krishna books. Who was the first person to distribute Krishna books? To nobody, like somebody in the airport. Who was the first person? That's Prabhupada himself. He took Krishna books and he sold them right on the airplane. And he himself told devotees, as soon as they publish Caitanya Charitamrita, go and sell these books in the airport. Give it to the conditioned souls. So there is a competition between confidentiality and deep desire of devotees to share Krishna Prem with everybody. So we say we don't share it, and then we give them a full set of Caitanya Caritamrita. You're not qualified, but you read it, okay? So that's really important. We do read it. And Prabhupada also was critical, and I have to be very clear. Again, in chapter 8, he criticized this materialistic academic scholars who take these topics and discuss them as some sort of material topics. I've seen it before, the Caitanya Caritamrita can be discussed by academics, doesn't help your realizations. So it's an interesting thing. There is another incident, again from Prabhupada Lila, very important incident. Somebody figured out that it's good to publish a cover of Back to Godhead with a very confidential Krishna Lila on it. And Prabhupada saw this cover, and then he said, take out all the Back to Godhead back. We cannot sell them on the street. Who had this idea? He almost replaced the head of the BVT who published those Back to Godhead with this cover. And then devotees wrote to him and said, okay, we are not going to publish anything about gopis and Krishna. We understand that it's not for preaching. He said, no, we are not boycotting gopis. He wrote back. So it's just that we don't want this to be looked at as a mundane relationship between a man and a woman. It's not. It's completely transcendental and free from what? What is the biggest plague of any relationship? Is egotistic relation. Egotism, selfishness. Material love is full of this. Possessiveness with desire to control another party, basically putting yourself in the center of a relationship. This is lust. In Krishna Lila, well, there are souls in Krishna Lila who have this Kamanuga form of relationship, Kamarupa, like Kubja, for example. And she was full of lust, and then she was cleared of lust because Krishna came to her. So after the darshan with Krishna, she was cleared of lust completely. But gopis of Vrindavan, they never had any lust. It looked like this, but it's not. They would claim it to be their feeling, but they didn't have it. And they were completely selfless in their love for Krishna. They only wanted what's good for Krishna, nothing for themselves. That is prema. You cannot find it in the material world. The closest thing that comes to it is mother's love to the child, but it's really far from it. So it's not found in the material world. So it's important to understand that in this particular Leela, Krishna could not understand the amount, the degree of selflessness of his devotees. And all the three reasons about the fact that devotees are free from selfishness, and that makes Krishna come to experience. When we say knowledge, it means to experience by his own practice this bhava, Radha bhava. So this is not that, he couldn't understand it. I cannot, it's 1, 2 plus 5, and that's 6. I cannot understand it. I have to check it somehow. No, he wanted to experience it. That's knowledge. He wanted to get the knowledge of the experience of this bhava. And then he took a role of not the one who receives worship, but who gives selfless love. So that's a change for Krishna, obviously. But Prabhupada says in one place, although Krishna is everyone's master, he gets tired of the lack of intimacy. So he wants to be even closer, and he wants these exchanges in love, and he actually prefers Raja Bhakti to any other kind of bhakti. When we say that Raja Bhakti is the highest, we think about how Prabhupada was so attached to Vrindavan, how he, that's something that you have to know, that he wanted to give Vrindavan to everybody who comes there. He specifically wanted to have an American guest house in Vrindavan. Before he even started the Krishna Balaram Mandir, he wanted to build a guest house so that devotees can come and experience Vrindavan. Because the first time devotees came, they lived in extreme austerity. It was so austere. Especially if you were a lady and you stayed in Palika estate and Narayani estate, and stayed in such horrible conditions. It's hard to express it. It's like you have to go to Keshigat and there is one hand pump and there you take a shower, right? And your bedding is on the floor, which is made from not even cow dung, it's just mud. Now you cannot wash it, and it's just unheated room in Vrindavan without windows. In the middle of winter, it's so austere. I'm telling you, it's very austere. Even pumping water in the winter is like you create like a whole steam house around yourself, because the water from earth is really warm compared to the air. So it was very austere. So Prabhupada wanted to give Vrindavan and Vrindavan Bhakti to his disciples. He definitely wanted, and he didn't want them to become Sahajiyas. No, definitely not. So this is that's an important point. But the discussion about Raganuga and Vaidhi Bhakti will be present when we will be studying this chapter, but it certainly is about previous chapter. So the previous chapter is about that, because that's when Krishna came to give Raganuga Bhakti by Sankirtana movement. And that's one of the main messages of actually Indra's book, Transcendental Book Distribution. Here, it's amazing how he designed the cover himself, and the whole point was to stress something that many people have forgotten, but in the 70s it was a very popular concept, that devotees are like selfless gopis who go and try to attract fallen souls to Krishna's service. And it's exact continuation of the same pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, and the exactly same thing was reenacted in Lord Chaitanya's Līlā when he came out on Sankirtan. There is no difference between those two processes, Harinama Sankirtan and dancing of the gopis with Krishna. It's the same process given by different reasons and in different time, and the meaning of this chapter is give a deeper meaning to our kirtans. And I will just close it with a very Vedantic point, probably really not even appropriately Vedantic, but it's an important point. And it's about the fact that a vak or sound have 4 different formats. Just like you hear me. Can you hear me, madam? You can hear me, right? You can hear me. And you can record it with an MP3 player. It's actually consciousness. When you hear me, you hear what I say, so you're conscious of what I say. That's a basic level of consciousness. Other 3 levels of consciousness are hard to understand, and it's specifically said, it's described in the Rig Veda, that there are 4 different levels of sound. Very important thing. The second level is the sound that you would hear on a level of consciousness, a mental level of consciousness, meaning the dreaming state. In a dream, you can hear sometimes something. And that's not something you can record with a tape recorder. But it's a madhyam sound. A sound which is in the middle. Not like you study madhyam flute. So there is a flute sound, but there is a subtle mental energy when you put and you play the flute, and you can hear it with your subtle mental senses. And higher than this is the avyaktam, or level, not jnana, level of vijnana. It's a level of intuition. There are 3 levels of material sound. So, that's important. But for us, the most important level of sound is paravak. Paravak, strictly speaking. So the highest level of sound. It's not heard by the material ears. Atashi Krishna namati na bhavyat grahyam indriya. Krishna's form and name is not heard by blunt senses. It's not the same thing as in the mental state, and it's not even the level of Brahman, or kind of the avyakta that's described in 11th canto, in great detail, different levels of sound. But the main aspect and emphasis of the 11th canto in the paravak, which is called Shabda Brahman. Shabda Brahman is Brahman that you can hear, but not with your ears. You hear it with your soul. And this is the process of Harinam Sankirtan, Prema Harinam Sankirtan, is the soul that tastes the Prema. And now you can sing very nicely and an exactly same melody, and even sometimes better than Aindra. I'm telling you, I came once for a lesson of harmonium that was maybe 20 years ago in Vrindavan, and I came to a very nice brahmachari, Bengali brahmachari, and he said, "Oh look, my harmonium is bigger than Aindra's, and my range is better than Aindra's, and I'm a brahmachari, and his voice was better than Aindra's." But it's not about the voice. It's about whether you can transmit the ecstatic emotion. If you can't transmit ecstatic, if you don't have it, how can I transmit it? If you don't have bhava, how can you give somebody nishta? If you don't have nishta, how can you put a seed of shraddha in the heart? The whole point is that you have a certain level, and you can, by giving them the paravak, the words of Srila Prabhupada, you can instill bhava in their heart. Not just giving words, you have to do this work. You have to give them something that you have. And you cannot, even the tape will not do that. Just listening to the tape, it's just material sound, unless you have the depth of practice and realization that you can reach the stage of transcendental meaning of the sound, transcendental content, the svarupa of the holy name. Okay, so I will stop here because I went on too long. And if you have any questions, please do ask. Yes?
Hare Krishna. You spoke about the issue of that we are not really qualified to hear about confidential pastimes of Krishna, especially with the gopis. At the same time...
I didn't talk about you. No.
Shall I repeat?
Yes, please do.
You spoke about the issue that we are actually not qualified to hear about the confidential pastimes of Krishna, especially those with the gopis. At the same time, we have to hear about them. And this this reminded me of the fact that Srila Prabhupada wrote the Krishna book
Yes.
because he wanted us to at least hear about the 10th canto,
Yes.
but at the same time we need preparation for that.
Okay.
We have to be introduced to it. You
Exactly.
cannot just jump to the 10th canto.
There's another reason for that.
So
I
that
would
is
say.
that is my point. Yeah.
Okay, I have to tell you a little, very short story about the Leelas of Krishna. Just a short one. It's a Boston story. So, 1968, Boston devotees had an Indian friend, a devotee, an Indian friend and devotee who would come and tell them different stories about Krishna. The Krishna book was not published yet. And then Srila Prabhupada came to Boston, and Boston is a little bit far away from New York where he stayed. So he came to Boston for a visit, and then he heard devotees telling those stories. And he became very angry. He said, "Where did you hear them? Where did you hear them?" So in the same time, there was a typist, Satsarup, who later became Satsarup Maharaj, who would be the typist for Krishna book. And he would start telling the stories that he heard when typing Krishna book. And in the same time, Prabhupada heard the same stories, and he said, "Wow," he smiled and he was really happy because it came from the right source. So, if it comes from the right source, and Srila Prabhupada gave us everything, and he never left, he's always in his books, because he gave us everything, we should take it from him. We must take it from him. Because if you don't, then Indian friends will come and start telling us stories. That's just my answer. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was too much.
No, it's okay, thank you.
Okay, well, not doing it prematurely and from the right source. So important. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
I was just going to, I would have made one point.
Yes, please.
And can you not hear with your feelings or with your heart that something, this doesn't feel right? Do you know that kind of hearing? It's like an intuition, actually.
Yes, that's the third level of sound. Yes.
So that was the third level,
It's a
intuition.
third, yes, but there is an ecstatic level, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, intuition is there. It's like Paramatma helping you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.